I never thought a promise could carry so much weight until that night, when Liam leaned against his apartment window, the soft glow of the city lights reflected off his face like a quiet confession waiting to happen. He smiled faintly, almost nervous, and said, "We'll only kiss, Ethan. Nothing more." At the time, it sounded simple, safe, even. But simplicity has a way of hiding storms underneath. Liam and I had been friends since our second year in college. We met during a volunteer project, two people who laughed at the same jokes, stayed up talking about everything and nothing, and somehow became each other's constant. Over time, he became the one I turned to when life blurred around the edges. The kind of friend who could read your silence better than your words. That I was with Noah then. 2 years into a relationship that had started with fireworks but now felt more like static. We still cared, but routine had dulled the edges of what used to feel electric. He was kind, dependable, predictable, qualities I once admired, but lately, they only reminded me of what I missed. I didn't realize how dangerous that longing could become until Liam started to fill the spaces Noah no longer reached. That it began innocently, the way these things often do. Late-night coffee runs turned into movie nights, and movie nights turned into long hours of quiet company that felt safer than they should have. Liam and I shared a rhythm that didn't need words. He'd noticed the way my voice changed when I spoke about work, or the way I avoided mentioning Noah. And though he never said it, his eyes told me he noticed everything. One Friday evening, we met after weeks apart. Liam had just ended a relationship that left him more fragile than he cared to admit. I remember the way he looked, tired eyes, restless hands, pretending he was fine. We sat on his couch, our laughter louder than the small room could hold. But beneath it all was a pulse neither of us could ignore anymore. When the laughter faded, a strange silence took its place. The kind that hums between two people who know something unspoken is about to surface. Liam looked at me for a long time before asking softly, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if we weren't just friends?" The question hit like a current. I wanted to say no, to shut it down before it became something real, but I hesitated. And that single pause said more than I intended. He noticed. "I'm not saying we should," he added quickly, as if rescuing himself from what he'd just said. Sometimes it feels like we already are, you know." I didn't answer. Because in a way, he was right. There were moments, fleeting, quiet moments, when our friendship felt too close, too heavy, too warm. The night grew colder, and he turned on a small lamp beside the couch. The soft light spilled over his features, gentle, almost vulnerable. He smiled, trying to break the tension. "Relax, Ethan. I'm not asking for anything. Just one kiss. Nothing more. Just to know." My heart raced at the absurdity of it. One kiss. The word sounded harmless, almost childish. But deep down, I knew there was nothing harmless about it. I should have left then. I should have reminded him, and myself, of Noah waiting for me at home. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed. "Why?" I asked quietly, more to myself than to him. He shrugged. "Maybe to understand what we've been pretending not to feel." The air between us thickened with the weight of what neither of us could name. I could hear my heartbeat echoing against the walls. It wasn't attraction alone, it was something deeper, something that scared me because it felt too real. Before I could find words to stop it, Liam reached out, his hand brushing mine in a slow, uncertain motion. It was such a small gesture, but it unraveled something inside me. Every unspoken thought, every avoided glance, every denied feeling, it all came rushing forward in that single touch. I looked away, unable to meet his eyes. "Liam, we can't," I said, though my voice sounded weaker than my intent. He nodded, almost as if he agreed, but his eyes said otherwise. "I know," he whispered. "That's why I promise, it'll only be a kiss." The room felt too quiet after that. Outside, the city moved on as if nothing monumental was about to happen, as if promises didn't have consequences. But I knew, even then, that something was shifting. Something that would change everything, our friendship, my relationship, maybe even who I believed I was. I left soon after, pretending the moment hadn't happened. Yet as I walked home, the echo of his words followed me through the night that he promised we would only kiss, and I wanted to believe that was all it would ever be. The hours that followed the discovery felt like a blur. I sat on the edge of our couch, my thoughts spinning like a carousel I couldn't escape. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan's face, the way he had looked at me in that strange, almost sheepish way. My stomach churned with questions I didn't yet know how to answer. How could he do this? Why me? And most hauntingly, who else knew? I tried to carry on, going through the motions of our routine, but every corner of the apartment seemed tainted with doubt. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus on the small tasks I had planned for the day. Even the sound of his voice made my heart hitch, a mixture of longing and suspicion. Ryan tried to act normally, but the tension between us was palpable. He smiled awkwardly over dinner, his hand brushing mine as if nothing had happened. But the weight of what I had seen pressed down on me, heavier than any physical object could. That night, sleep refused to come. I found myself scrolling through my phone, piecing together little fragments of information I had ignored before. A text message that had disappeared too quickly, a call he had taken in another room, a friend he had met for coffee that I knew nothing about. Each tiny detail formed a mosaic of unease, and with every new connection, the realization sank deeper. This wasn't just a one-time lapse in judgment. Something had been happening behind my back, and I hadn't seen it until now. By morning, my decision was made. I couldn't keep pretending. I needed answers, no matter how painful. When Ryan came out of the bathroom, humming softly, I felt a knot tighten in my chest. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the storm inside. He froze, the smile fading. His eyes darted to mine, searching for some signal that I would forgive him, or perhaps that I wouldn't ask too many questions. That I laid everything out calmly, my words precise, each sentence weighted with intent. "I saw you yesterday. You were wearing my underwear." I paused, letting it sink in. "And I need to understand why." Ryan swallowed hard, his hands fidgeting. "Alex. I can explain." "I didn't mean to hurt you," he started, but the sincerity sounded hollow. I had expected denial, but not hesitation, not the faint edge of fear in his voice. Something inside me knew that his explanation, however crafted, would not be enough. That I pressed further, asking about the texts, the late-night calls, the little inconsistencies I had noticed. Ryan's answers were evasive, circular, careful not to admit the truth. My heart sank as the pieces started to fall into place. He had been hiding more than just a strange habit or an impulsive mistake. There had been a secret life I had never known about, and then, finally, the confirmation. I found a message I wasn't supposed to see, words that confirmed the suspicion I had been too afraid to voice aloud. Ryan had been seeing someone else, someone he never intended for me to meet. The betrayal was not only physical but emotional, a slow, careful deception that had grown over time. That I felt as though the ground had been pulled from beneath me. The love I had trusted so completely now seemed fragile, artificial, and cruel. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the world into chaos just to match the storm raging inside me. But instead, I stayed silent, letting the reality settle in, cold and undeniable. Ryan's attempts to reach for my hand, to speak, to explain, felt meaningless. The trust between us had fractured in a way that words could not repair. And yet, beneath the pain, there was a quiet, burning clarity. I deserved honesty. I deserved respect. And no matter how much my heart ached, I would not let this betrayal define me. As I stood there, letting the silence fill the apartment, I realized that the moment had come to make a choice. Could I forgive, or was it time to let go? The answer was not simple, but deep down, I knew that the path forward would demand courage I wasn't sure I had yet. And in that uncertainty, the next chapter of our story, whether together or apart, waited, and I had no idea what it would bring. The next morning, the apartment felt colder, emptier, as if Ryan's presence alone had lost its warmth. I wandered through the rooms, noticing the little traces of our life together, the mugs on the counter, the throw blanket on the sofa, the photos on the wall, and yet, everything felt tainted, like a photograph with a crack running through it. I knew the moment had come for a confrontation I had been dreading, one that would either reveal the truth completely or shatter whatever illusion of love still lingered between us. When Ryan emerged from the bedroom, his casual smile faltered as he saw my expression. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. We need to talk. Everything. Now, I said, my voice firm, leaving no room for evasion. He nodded slowly, a flicker of apprehension crossing his features. I could see the hesitation, the brief glimmer of fear in his eyes, a stark contrast to the confident, charming man I had fallen for. That we sat across from each other at the small kitchen table, the silence thick and suffocating. I looked at him, searching for the honesty that had once been the foundation of our relationship. Ryan. I know everything, I said, my words deliberate. The texts, the calls, the meetings you tried to hide. I saw the messages. I know about her. His face paled, and for a moment, I thought he might break down. Instead, he reached out, grasping my hand, and whispered, Alex. I love you. I always have. The words hit me like a physical blow, twisting something deep inside me. Love. That simple, powerful word, now tangled with lies, deceit, and betrayal. I had clung to it for so long, believed in it fully, and yet, it felt hollow. I don't understand, I murmured, my voice trembling despite the strength I was trying to summon. How could you say that after everything? Ryan's hand squeezed mine, desperate, pleading, but I could feel the illusion slipping away. His love, his words, they were no longer enough to bridge the chasm he had created. I made a mistake, he admitted, his voice breaking slightly. I didn't want to hurt you, Alex. I got lost. His eyes were full of regret, but the regret did not erase the choices he had made, the trust he had shattered. I wanted to forgive, to reach for him, to believe in the man I had loved so completely, but my heart was no longer naive. Tears welled in my eyes as I stood up, finally stepping away from the table, from him, from the weight of everything he had done. Ryan, love isn't supposed to destroy the person you say it's for. I can't keep pretending that this is okay. The words were heavy, but they felt like the first honest thing I had said in days. That he fell silent, unable to argue, unable to stop the inevitable. I could see it in the slump of his shoulders, the desperation in his gaze. And yet, there was no hatred, no bitterness in me, only clarity. This was the end of a chapter, painful and messy, but necessary. That I walked to the door, gathering my coat, my bag, every item that felt like a piece of my own agency. Ryan's voice called after me softly, almost lost amidst the stillness. Alex, please, but I didn't look back. Not because I didn't care, but because I had finally understood that my worth, my dignity, and my peace could not depend on someone who had broken my trust so fundamentally. As I stepped out into the crisp air, the weight on my chest began to lift, replaced by a quiet resolve. The love I had felt for Ryan wasn't erased, it had simply changed. It became a lesson, a reminder that trust is fragile, and that self-respect must always come first. I let the door close behind me, feeling the sting of loss, but also a spark of freedom. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself, on healing, and on rediscovering the joy that had been dimmed by betrayal. I learned to laugh again, to sleep without dread, and to trust in small ways, first in myself, then cautiously in the world around me. The story of Ryan and me didn't end with reconciliation or vengeance, it ended with growth, understanding, and a quiet affirmation that even shattered love can teach you the most valuable lessons. And though the memory of that day, the underwear, the lies, the "I love you," would linger forever, it no longer held power over me. I had survived the storm, and in doing so, I found something stronger than love alone, the courage to stand for myself, no matter what.